Hey guys, this is Dreambeard, and you're listening to Music Existence.
Welcome to another instance of music existence, where because of music, we exist. My guest is Ryan Lane, also known as Dreambeard, founder of the Dreambeard Beard Oil Company. Lane achieved worldwide success in selling this product to well over 100 countries. He's since transitioned into music. These past few years, he's been blessing us with singles, the latest being High Life, done in collaboration with the new metal band Dropout Kings. We have a very interesting story for you guys here, and we're very pleased to welcome Ryan Lane, aka Dreambeard. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey man, how's it going? Yeah, I'm so honored, man, and I can't wait to get into it, man. A lot of big things are happening, and yeah, man, it's exciting.
This is so awesome, man. I'm so glad to meet you, and I am working on my beard as we speak.
Let's go. Mine mine never fits in the frame half the time.
It will grow in about a week, and
Let's go.
yeah. I'm lucky like that. I have like good beard genes, you know. Within by Sunday it'll be like completely full.
Let's go. It really is just like you said. I think a lot of it is genetics. I get asked a lot about like how you can make it, be this long or grow this big, and like you said, a lot of times it's you have to have the beard genes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm hoping to, I don't know, put my beard to good use. Either promote it like you have or use it for donation purposes.
Yeah, people have always asked me that, if I'd ever donate the beard. I think it'd have to be like a very, very special, big deal for me to ever do anything like that. I feel like it's no pun intended, but it's grown on me and it feels like it's a part of me now.
Yeah, of course, grown in the widest sense.
Exactly.
So to get to a serious note, when it
Mhm.
comes to your childhood, it wasn't the best of situations. In fact, there was a lot to overcome because you come from kind of an unsafe environment as I'm reading, and it was, a bunch of, as you explained in Void, like coke in the kitchen, drugs in the garage. And like it just gave me that imagery, like we're gonna talk about music in the same respect, but also dive into a bit of what it was like. So when you were in that environment, what like music or albums help provide you that solace?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was growing up in a really destructive environment as a kid. I think music very quickly becomes like an escape,
Hmm.
especially if you're, we weren't really well off, so it's not like there's a lot to do. And man, yeah, I would say the new metal scene in general, all the greats, System of a Down, Linkin Park, of course, and Korn. I mean, even Green Day as an even younger kid, you know, these were these were songs that were so powerful to me that carried such a story and such an energy that I resonated with as a child because a lot of those that type of music tends to talk a lot about things like hardship and going through things and so I think early on I like really adopted that style of music is something that was gonna always resonate with me and still does to this day.
Yeah, so a bit of the pop punk and new metal, lot of that, late 90s, early 2000s transitional period, that was very much me too. That was my sort of punk rock and heavy metal exposure, and it all happens in like different permutations.
Yes, 100%, man. I mean, like first big album for me was probably Creed, but I think later on it was like Limp Bizkit and Korn and bands like that that really shaped the style of music that I enjoy and always what did enjoy and I would say there was like a good probably 5 years where I got into so many different styles of music, but I think at my core, I was
Right.
always new metal kid.
Yeah. And it really just goes to show like what kind of genres manifest inside you creatively. And before we get to your music, I mean, tell me a bit about what your environment was like, a bit more about that. When we get into like your living situation, at what point were you no longer oblivious to it and you first recognized that there was a problem that really irked you?
Well, I think where I really noticed that like there was dysfunction that I can like remember because I'm sure as like a child, like a toddler, the situations my parents were kind of going through were probably even crazier. But as I got to probably about 6 or 7, and like I could really remember things, that was the time that my mom had to give me over to my dad because of drugs and situations like that. And I remember a lot of arguments and yelling and door slamming and craziness, and so I think that at that around that age, I was like, man, something's not right. Like this can't be normal, because you
Yeah.
start hanging out with other kids in school, and you're like, it doesn't seem like they're going through the same things.
Hmm. And in by 13, you were kicked out. And like,
Yeah.
what kind of things did you do to keep yourself afloat? And like, what kind of survival mechanisms did you learn that you still apply to this day, like skill wise?
Man, I mean, I think isn't that the crazy thing about trauma and about going through things is that you develop a sense of survival instincts. And so I'm not saying
Yeah,
those are they're the greatest reasons that I've
right.
that have given me these abilities. But I think being able to be a chameleon and be okay with whatever situation you found yourself in, and being able to find solace and happiness, despite your situation, I think that I've had just almost like a superpower to do. So even being in like the most roughest situations, like you said, being kicked out of the only like real family I'd felt in a long time at 13. Yeah, you start developing these kind of survival skills where you're able to be malleable with change. I think is really the superpower, and often that does come from trauma. But now, I can utilize those things to help me grow in so many other ways.
Hmm. And yeah, I know what you mean completely. And I've learned, I've been kicked, taken for granted, brushed off, and at first it hits you really hard, but then you learn to just it it's like it's weird because when I've been through a similar situation, not like you have, but when you deal with those sorts of trauma when you're younger, it seems like you can shake it off a lot
Hmm.
more. And then when you get older, when you start opening up more, it gets a little bit harder, but then you have to kind of retrain yourself
Yes.
to shake it off again.
Yes. 100%, man. And I feel like what has helped me in my older age with those kind of things, being able to shake that off, is really ego death. And that's part of the reason why I love being called Dream and Dreambeard is because what I'm doing is I'm playing a character. And if I can create distance from my actual spirit and who I am at my core with the character I'm playing and place that ego on that character, I get less offended. I get less hurt by things because I realize that I'm just playing a character, and it's okay if someone doesn't like it or if they hurt me and so that's another way that I've been able to kind of survive and thrive in a world where it's not always the best, and the situations aren't always the best.
Yeah, and in essence, it's the theme of the game Persona.
Exactly.
It's Persona. That's like what it's all about. And it's not necessarily about faking. It's
Mhm.
developing layers to protect yourself while also having without sacrificing who you are deep down.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. You're creating distance, and it's like it allows you, like you said, to still have your own moral code, your own belief system that empowers you and keeps you happy every day and keeps you grounded. But you can still play in this land we call reality, right? And probably
Hmm.
more like a matrix. And so you're just playing this cool character. And I think when people realize that, it just gives them a little more freedom to not have to be stuck in maybe the way they were told to be, maybe the way that they thought they should be, maybe the way their friends or what they saw in
Yeah,
movies.
how they
And
internalized it from that pain, right?
exactly.
Hmm. And I know that faith in all forms has always been a constant in your life.
Mhm.
And like it is really such a powerful thing that I've known like all my musicians that I've interviewed known it's always carried them through the worst, you know?
100%. Yeah, man. I think everyone, what I've realized, has faith. Even if you're, atheist, you have faith that nothing exists, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
have, like everybody has some sort of faith, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the power lies, anyways. Is it's so important to believe something that's bigger than yourself, and an idea that is bigger. And I think that what I've seen in all the paths that I've taken that were like spiritual is that that truth reigns supreme. I think belief has the power to like heal
Mm-hmm.
and change people for the better.
Yeah, all of that works in conjunction with who you are, you know, like we mentioned about building that persona without sacrificing your core values.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you were led to Brittany, you were both youth pastors, and
Mhm.
when you two met, I mean, considering what you've been through, what was one thing that she was able to do for you that allowed you to see like, wow, like she really is special to me. She allows me to let the walls down, you know, in ways that I never felt before.
Man, I'm so glad you brought her up. I don't usually get to talk about my wife and interviews. And man, I mean, I think when we found each other, like you said, we were youth pastors and we were young as hell, and we had no clue what the world had for us and what we would go through. I have someone like her and that be supportive throughout all my transitions has been probably one of the craziest experiences I've had on planet Earth. To have someone like walk with you, run with you, deal with your bullshit and the things that you go through and the hardships and the darkness. Like she has seen me in the best moments of my life by far, and also the deepest, scariest, darkest, places. And yeah, I wouldn't be who I am with her. So,
Yeah, I mean, the thing was she allowed herself to go on that journey with you, and I think that's like really special because some people can see the demons that are let out one way or another and immediately dismiss you and say, "Nope, I didn't sign up for this," and they'll just bolt.
yeah, yeah. Everybody loves the beauty. No one likes the ugly. It's like, and a lot of relationships are like that, where it's like, as long as you're doing X, Y, and Z and making me happy, then this is going to work out. But the moment you don't, then it's not. And I think what what's kept us having a 14-year long marriage is that despite the brokenness, like we still choose each other at the end. So,
Yeah, it's really good. It kept you in a sense strong enough to have that faith that we were talking about to start Dreambeard. And, you know, with that, I mean, of course, beard oils have been around for centuries, but
mhm.
you started Dreambeard at the time when there was sort of a revival for beard oils, you know? People
Yeah.
were kind of catching on to it. So, what was that first bit of research that you did that gave you the confidence of like, wow, I'm actually like onto something?
Well, this is a crazy story because I don't normally tell this story,
Right.
but I felt like it would be good to kind of give you the real story, but being a pastor kind of afforded me the ability to start understanding essential oils through anointing oil.
Oh,
And so I kind of like had like learned a little bit about anointing oil and the benefits of it. And like you said, like oils have been used for centuries for skin and things like that, but nothing had ever been like kind of packaged like to the consumer market in a modern way. And so I looked up, beard products, and the only thing I could find on the internet at the time, this was like 2010 or something like that, was a beard wash, but nothing that was oil based. And I was like, I was like, this could be really interesting. And so, with the knowledge I had of anointing oil and like scents and stuff like that, plus obviously the internet and even some local shops out in Atlanta that I was able to pick their brain. I sat down on the dining room table of my father-in-law's house with $46, and I made the first Dream Beard product, and it was all I had. And I had this, like you said, faith. I remember that I was actually headed to my first job interview since I had moved back to Atlanta from being a youth pastor, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And as I was headed to that interview, I called my wife and I said, I'm not supposed to do this. And I said, I think I'm supposed to do that, the beard thing, at the time. And she said, okay. And I literally turned around, my car didn't go to the interview. And that's when I started Dream Beard.
well, that was your calling in a sense, you know? People have different callings in life, and knowing that, you had that edge, that experience you had as a youth pastor, getting in touch with the oils to really understand what they're about. How did you do it with only $46?
Yeah, it's a secret, right? Like, um, beard oil isn't expensive. And so I was able to make one bottle,
What?
and I believed in it and I showed it. Go ahead.
What? It was like, no, I'm just surprised. Like, it really
Yeah.
is cheap. Like, you can sell it for like a huge markup, I'd imagine, but getting that product together is like inexpensive.
Yeah. I mean, the idea, right? Like I knew these like oils and these products that I wanted to buy. And so I bought all of them and I was able to make the concoction, so to speak, into one bottle. And that proof of concept basically allowed me to, my friend actually, I've never told this story, but I had a friend that believed me in so much he gave me $2,000. And at the time, I took that and then I made more products, a couple different ones. And then I basically went on Etsy and started on Etsy, and it just blew up. We were in 30 countries in like 3 months. So we went from like, making a handful of bottles to hundreds of bottles to like we were having friends literally come to our house and help us make it for 8-hour days type thing. And it just
Whoa.
kind of like slowly grew from there to where all of a sudden we have a spot and we have like machines doing it now and
So,
and
like,
all that kind of
which
stuff.
key
And
ingredients made it like stand out, made it functional? Like, wow, this actually like can be of quality, that people can use
yeah.
and that can make it like stand out in its own way. Which ingredients did you really see that really made it good?
Yeah. there I don't want to give up the secret sauce only because
No.
we actually might be reviving the brand very 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 soon. I will say that what interests me the most, and I will give this advice out there, is that, there were two base oils. One was actually extra virgin olive oil, which is known for centuries to help with skin and skin follicles, and then jojoba oil. And that's the one that I was really interesting for me early on. It was before it was really, a lot of this is like really widely known now. We're talking, you know, 12, 13, 14 years ago. This kind of information wasn't like on YouTube everywhere, and people weren't talking about beauty products like they do now. And so this was all like really new information. I think frankincense is another one that was really surprising to me because I thought about it as only an anointing oil, like we were talking about. But the more I researched it, again, it would be extremely helpful for hair follicles, for skin, and so yeah, man, I started to dabble and create kind of a formula and a ratio that to me was the best, and I think it showed that it was the best selling in, I think it was 186 countries was the top number, and we had infos like Tim Root from Slipknot and Billy Gibbons and all kinds of really cool stuff happening back then.
The beard guys. What about Kerry King? Did you give some to him?
No, no, never. That would have been so sick. Maybe when we revive it, we can though.
Yeah, because he's known for his beard, man.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's the first guy who came to mind when I saw you. I was like, man, that looks like Kerry King a little bit.
Let's go. I'll take it.
Yeah. But when did the beard like sort of become your identity, like your musical identity? Did you start out like kind of designing your beard, sort of shaping it, but also like maybe I'll shave it here and there, and then but then eventually you decided maybe I'll just go with a full beard? Or was it something that happened
Mhm.
entirely coincidentally and you just stuck with it?
Very coincidental. I think I flow with life. That's how I've always been. And I think when I started the products, I was like, well, damn, I've got to be a poster child, and like, so let me just let it go. And so I started letting it grow. And I, by any means, had nowhere near the biggest beard at that time, like, especially in that industry. It was a lot of fun and the culture was great. And I just got excited and I wanted to grow my beard. And then I think I got it probably like a year or so in, and I was like, man, I mean, I felt like Forrest Gump. I've been this far, I might as well keep running, type thing, and I just kept doing that, and I think I never knew that it was going to be an identity. It just again kind of started happening. People started calling me Dream a lot because of the brand, Dreambeard, and then people would call me DB, or then people just started calling me Dreambeard, and I think that it just was kind of like this natural transition for years before I ever even started music. People were calling me Dreambeard. And so when I started music, I had thought extensively, like, is it a band? Do I make a new name? I had thought about a new name, and things like that. And I just felt like it wasn't authentic to what I had become. Like, this is a journey, and it took a long time for me to develop into this person. So why not, just let it be that?
Hmm. And in a way, it's like you made that full transition from DB. You mentioned that at one point, you know, how you were known was DB, and then in music, DB stands for decibel, and you make like very loud, charged, crunchy kind of rock, new metal sort of music.
Mm-hmm. I've never looked at it that way. That's actually really sick.
Yeah. And so like when it came to the type of genres that you wanted to sort of have in your music, what was like the earliest iteration of Dreambeard when it came to music? Because I know that the trajectory a lot of artists go through, especially nowadays, when they sign, they don't really have like their early efforts online still, and they just have like the best, most commercially accessible sort of product. But going back to like the very first iteration of the musical Dreambeard, what were those like early efforts like?
Yeah, I only knew church music, so I was afraid. I didn't know what I was supposed to be. And I think that I knew a lot of people in the metal industry, and I looked like someone that was supposed to be in the metal industry. And I was always fascinated with screaming. And so I began to just like play with it. I became obsessed a little bit with like, how do I do this technique, and can I even do this thing? And so I started experimenting one time with myself and was goofing off and screaming at each other. And I recorded it. And we made a song, and I started showed it to some friends, and they're like, "Man, this is sick." And I just made it myself in GarageBand. I had like I think I literally found like some sort of instrumental, and I we just tracked over it. And that was my first thought of like, man, maybe I could do this. Like, is this something? And then um on Shiprocked when I was with Memphis Mayfire, and he we became good buds, and he sent me a track, and I kind of wrote to it, and then I showed it to my buddy who's now my colleague Cameron Mizell Chango, and he was like, "Man, let's make this into a song." And that song was Rage, and then we made one more with him called Bad Memories. And I think initially on, I was really interested in just being heavy, mostly screaming, mostly, like things like that. And I think I did that out of what I thought people would want. And then I think I went through this transition quickly where I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to be put in a box. Like, I don't want to just do what I think people want to hear. Like, I want to do what excites me, especially if I'm going to do this for a while and actually try, you know. And so yeah, so I from there I just started kind of playing around, and that's when I started getting more into cross genres and doing weird sounds that don't normally go with maybe with heavy stuff. And then now I think that's just continuing to shape into something that's like a more solidified sound.
Were you surprised by when you were making those musical contexts, like in the same way, how many people like believed in your vision?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's been really cool to like find those people in my life that like really got behind me and have been like super supportive and encouraged me and cheered me on. I think that's so important to any artist is to find your people that see the vision, and will walk with you in that vision and support you in any way, whether that's just smallest of things, or I think they're all extremely valid.
Yeah. And like when it came to just like your journey with getting that started, I mean, one of the first songs I heard before High Life was Void with Sada Baby,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of gave me a
Mm-hmm.
glimpse into like what what you were like, what the presentation was going to be like. But I also like noticed like a lot of subtlety with Void and with Rage. It's like it plays into like the delirium, but also like the bleakness in your life and this feeling of being like perpetually stuck and like as if there's like no way
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that that's been a nice theme for my life is feeling stuck. I think that the more I've gotten into experiencing reality from a metaphysical sense all the way to just a physical sense of getting older and experiencing more of life, I think that there's always been this sense of like I don't belong here. Like I feel like that there's just so much more that we don't understand and that I don't understand that I'll never understand. And I think I've just had to come okay with that. And so sometimes I think it definitely bleeds over into my writing and into my music.
Hmm. And so what happened on Shiprock was you met Adam Ramey of Dropout Kings, and what was that experience like? I mean, did he seem approachable at that time? And did you guys like hit it off very early on, or did it kind of take time for you to like kind of break a wall down and like get to know each other, that way?
Um, with at Shiprock specifically with meeting Adam from Dropout Kings, it was extremely natural.
Hmm.
I was just being a dude out there on the beach. Everyone's smoking cigars, and I want one, you know. So I get out of the pool, and I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna go grab a cigar." So I'm looking for some little stand or shop, and I see this guy that looks dope, and he's in his bungalow, you know, type thing, and he's smoking a cigar. So I'm like, "Well, man, I'm gonna go ask him where he got it." And I walked up to him. I was like, "Yo, dude, where'd you get that cigar?" And he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "I actually brought this from home." And I was like, "Damn." And he was like, "But you can smoke it with me if you want." And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And so I walked up into his little villa thing, and we sat down and we just started talking life immediately. It was so natural. And we smoked that whole cigar. And at the end, I was like, "What's your name, man?" He's like, "My name's Adam." And I was like, "It's so nice to meet you, bro." And I was like, "I hope you have a wonderful day." And that was it. Like, we didn't connect. And I had no clue that he was a part of Dropout Kings. And I think it wasn't until later, either on the ship, I think I remember seeing him again. I was like, "Oh man," I was like telling my friends I had hung out. He's like, "Dude, that's the singer Dropout Kings. You know, they just did a sick set on the beach." And I was like, "Hell no, that's crazy." And so I remember, I think I looked him up on Instagram, followed him, he followed me back. And from there, we were just like connected. Every time he was, you know, in my town for tour, we were hanging out, you know, or likewise, I'm in his side of town. And man, he was always just an incredible, sweet person. And something I've never even said before in an interview that I just remembered is that he was also extremely supportive when I started doing music. He wanted to help me market it, and it was just, he was an all around just beautiful person.
Hmm. And that's something like the friends that you meet, sometimes it takes people years to recognize that they were actually part of bands, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. I think some people, you know, not everybody leads with what they do in life, and I think sometimes you can just meet really cool people, and you have no clue what they actually do. And I think with what I do as a current job plus music, puts me around a lot of amazing people, and I've learned not to judge a book by its cover because you never know what kind of cool and amazing things people are up to.
Hmm. It really is like unexpected, and like sometimes like you're like the least affected by it. I mean, there are so many people that I've interviewed from so many different backgrounds, and like there's like, surgeons that have done music, there's real estate agents who have done music, there's marketers that do the same, like hold music and marketing in high regard and utilize it. And it's so amazing when you can just leave all that, career bullshit aside and just connect as people, even before music is even like the connection of music is established.
100%, man. I couldn't agree more. Um, Music is just extremely powerful in that way, that there's like a camaraderie. Maybe there's even a sense of how you feel a connection with someone before you even know that they're involved in those kind of things.
Yeah. And so for High Life, that really resonated with me because, it goes in a very cyclical sort of thing. Obviously, Dropout Kings were a part of it. You wanted to sort of, you know, play like, in a way, it's like an empathetic tribute, you know, not only to Adam, but, you know, noticing that cycle that you just keep going through, you know, one time after the other. And it really just gets to your head. And a subtle thing I picked up on in the video is like, how you just kind of laying on the couch and she's like, you know, like kind of holding your hand a little bit, kind of stroking it in kind of a nurturing way. I mean, that's what we all want. We don't want the rush of things to, hold us down. We want to still have fun, but we want it we want to reach a place where we're calm, you know?
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that with High Life, it was a very probably personal song that I didn't realize was personal at the time, and what I was going through a lot of darkness in my life, and I think, like you said, I wanted the calm. I was ready to choose. I was ready to neglect this high life, and if that's what it really was all about, for calm, for solace, for peace, and I think that's what drove me to break the cycle in my own life.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you kind of notice in the video is like the calm is always there. It's always there. You just have to know, like, you just have to recognize that that's what you ultimately value because you see it throughout the video. And, you know, the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you'll achieve it.
I couldn't agree more, man. That's you literally said it perfect.
I mean, that's what I got from the highlight. From the highlight, ever since I saw that, I mean, some people would just see a girl and it's part of the excess, but I thought it was sort of like at the end of the thing. Like the highest achievement is just like just being in like a calm sort of Zen state, going back to, realizing that with like Buddhism and whatnot.
100%, man. When I got heavy into Buddhism and Zen, I realized that that was the ultimate gift in life, was that if you could just be okay with the present, like if you could really just like enjoy the moment because it's happening, and flow
Hmm.
with it. And I think that peace and that period of time that I had where deep rooted myself in a lot of those kind of moral codes has helped me so much now, in the way that I handle life and the way that I even approach music.
Hmm. And like we imagined, like we said, like we've all like manifested, just like the power of faith, in all forms. It's just a constant in your life, and you've stuck to it. You've broke a lot of doors down, man, with the success with your beard company, and then the chapter now that you have with Judge and Jury. Talk about that, man.
Man, yeah, like the judge and jury stuff is so exciting, Like I was talking about earlier, my colleague Cam Chango, he had a relationship with them, and so basically he reached out and was like, "Yo, I have this dude I'm producing. I don't want to talk myself up, but I guess he was sick enough to for Cam to pitch to judge and jury, and I think they got to hear a lot of the songs that aren't even out yet, and um, and it just seemed like a great fit, And for me, it was just like a aha moment, right? It's what every artist dreams of, is to be able to like be in the NFL, so to speak. It's like when you become signed, it's something different. And there's no discount to like indie artists that aren't signed, right? I know some that are doing amazing things, and there's always a lane for that. But I think that for me, it was an ability to have a team that could take me somewhere I couldn't go on my own.
Hmm. And what have you noticed about how they have inspired your creativity as far as like the batch of songs that, alongside High Life, like the stuff that you're working on now?
Yeah, the stuff I'm working on now, man, is so different and unique. I love it when I get to show people, kind of what I'm working on. But it's like it's we're doing some stuff, man, that I don't think's ever been done, and I honestly can say that. There's a one song in particular I wish I could even say, but it's so unreal what we're kind of doing in the coach and the feature that we're working with. It's just extremely unique, man. And I think that that's what I want to do. I know that like you can't reinvent the wheel, but damn, man, I want to try. I want to try my best during my stint in music to make things that are sonically interesting and really compose things that just surprise people.
Yeah. And as far as like the trust that you have in them, do you notice like the sort of power of, that saying, what goes around comes around? Do you notice like the gratitude like coming towards you as a result of your efforts?
For sure, man. I mean, I have a lot of people that love me, and I have a lot of new people that are finding out about me that are extremely supportive. And I think that, like you said, what goes around comes around. And I'm trying my best in this reality to put good things out, hoping that good things come back, right? And so I think that, like, as I continue to put that kind of, again, like we said, faith and direction and manifestation and prayer, whatever you want to call it, into this project, I hope people reciprocate that and that it's just all good vibes all around.
Hmm. And considering the career that you have thus far, your business with Dreambeard and also your music with Dreambeard, what have you learned about yourself, not only as a musician, but as a person?
Man, I think the thing I've learned about myself is that I sure can handle change. And luckily that's maybe one of the greatest truths is that we're always changing. Your mind's changing, your environment's changing, everything's changing around you. As a kid, my life changed so many times in so many different ways. And as I gotten older, it continued to change in so many different ways. And it's still to this day changing in so many different ways. And so one thing I learned about myself is to trust myself throughout that change because what people hate about change is the uncertainty, right? It's the blackness. It's why we're afraid to die. It's like they don't know what's on the other side. And when things are changing, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. And I've learned to just settle, to trust myself, to sit back, to walk in love and let it happen.
Hmm. I mean, that is powerful. You've been through so much and you've made so many moves, so many power moves. You're not only working on a fresh batch of music, but you're also learning to get back into the business spirit, revive
Mm,
Dreambeard, get that going again, make beards not only um powerful and impressive, but also, a poignant thing, like,
mm,
a testament to someone's identity. Beards aren't out, beards are in again. Rock that beard,
mm. Yeah, 100%, man. I say to all the men out there, grow what God gave you, and have fun with it. And if you don't want to grow a beard, hey, that's cool too, man. Just cheer us on while we grow ours.
Yeah. Lastly, anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Man, if you're on this journey with me, thank you so much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart. It's so much fun for me. I feel so fortunate to get to play this role and I'm excited that you're willing to even come on this journey.
Thank you so much, man. Like this conversation we have, it was in depth, it was uplifting, it was powerful. I'm so glad I met you, even if it's just virtually. I consider that meeting, whether it's in person, whether it's virtually, it still resonates with me, man. And I'm glad we were able to make this connection.
Same, man. I hope we get to do this again. It was a complete honor, and I loved our conversation. It was awesome.
Yeah, I hope you share it around, and I am like, I'm glad to, again, to have made this connection. I'm glad that we touched on a lot of very important things, you know, even if our lives are different, our upbringings are different, we can still connect, with our strong sense of faith, our strong determination. Like that's what matters.
100%. And I think we need more of that, more connection in this reality and for people, and to realize that we have more similarities than we do differences. Man, I really appreciate you so much. Reach out anytime you need anything.
All right. Have a good day, man.
All right. Later, brother.